Yeah, this is the first sour I've done that I haven't put like lactose in or a heap of fruit or done something to try and make it just not a standard sour beer. But this is so yeah, like maybe fourth or fifth time that I actually had to go kettle souring, but probably the first time I've actually, just let it go. And
what is it?
So this is a Weisse. This is 23A in your program. Very low alcohol, very pale, but very refreshing, crisp, clean, sour European beer.
Is it normally fruited? Or over in Europe, do they drink this like
so,
that?
As I read in the notes, the traditional way of having this beer is to make your base version as is, but then you would add like a cordial of a particular fruit after you serve it. So you're still kind of, doing as I've done here, but then like adding the flavour in afterwards. But yeah, like a sugary concentrate, I guess. So
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking amazing. I really like this. And it's such a contrast as well to the lambic as well. Like, not as complex by any stretch. It's just like real tart, and then it's kind of just washes over and you're done.
It's 40 degree summer days for me, that beer. And it is super refreshing, super crisp.
Yeah. We said before, this is like encroaching closer to like white wine territory.
Yeah.
And I think if you were into those sort of like, I wouldn't call them outrageous sort of styles that have like that high acidity and like, that fruity sort of, flavour to it, you're probably gonna make the transition in half a step here, because this is so close.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is a perennial candidate for the 40-year-old guy at the pub. Fuck, I'm almost 40. That 60-year-old guy at the pub that's like, that's not beer.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Like a centuries-old style of making beer that's just different, but like slowly becoming more and more of like a very popular way of brewing, which is really cool. I feel in many ways it's like honouring a bit of a like tradition of German brewing, but in the same way I feel like I'm just swept up in, oh, you made a sour, did you? Like,
well, it's not soured though, is it? That is just a Berliner Weisse.
I mean, yeah, it's kettle soured, but I wouldn't call it like
traditional soured.
Yeah, so it's very controlled compared to other souring techniques. So
that's just some lacto in the...
Yeah.
So do you want to explain the process, I guess, to people who may not know?
Yeah, so pretty much what we're doing here is you're pretty much doing your brew day as per normal. We're using a pretty bland sort of malt bill, just a mix of Pilsner and wheat, low IBU, and pretty much once we start boiling, we stop about 10 minutes in, just as like a bit of a sanitary measure. Let it cool down about 35 to 45 degrees, so run it through the heat exchanger or whatever you have to do to get it down that cool. But pretty much once you're there, you pitch your lactobacillus yeast, which is different to your normal brewing yeast, and you kind of let those bugs drop your pH. You might want to make a bit of an adjustment yourself with some lactic acid, but getting the right conditions for them, higher temperature than normal, 2 to 3 days will probably do it for the amount of time that you need. And then I pretty much just kept dipping my finger in and trying to get sort of the right sort of level of sourness. It's actually pretty true, like considering how you taste it to then like boiling it and like sort of resuming the process from where you left off a few days before. You just do your boil, then heat it down and use like a normal ale yeast to ferment. That's kettle souring. That's the safest, easiest way of doing it. I think you're always guaranteed to get a good result out of it. Like every time I've done it so far, it's worked for me.
Yeah.
You can sort of be a little bit exotic and use different sort of sources of lactobacillus bacteria, but getting it from the brew shop is fucking just as easy as any of those other methods, and
it works.
Yeah, it works. Like it's a real sort of classic sour taste. It's I think what does set it apart to like these other crafty sours is just how clean it sort of finishes, and it doesn't have the bells and whistles. It's just a nice sour ale, I think. Like it's
What's the fermentation like after? So after you've kettle soured, you reboil, and then what you ferment with yeast.
US05, just standard conditions you otherwise would, so 18, 19, 20 degrees, whatever you like to do, is, yeah, I mean, there's not much to really ferment out, because it's about 1035-ish original gravity, so it's not gonna be too high. But, yeah, what you're left with is fantastic. You said before that it was kind of like my end of the scale for sourness.
Yeah.
Which I normally associate as being like the upper end, but I think there's still like a little bit further you can probably go with how sour this actually is. Like it's
what I meant
in
was
my ballpark.
It was more tart than, because I've had Berliner Weisse that taste almost wheaty, whereas like this one doesn't taste wheaty. It tastes on the tart end, and I like it. I wasn't saying I didn't like it, but I could tell this was a duds beer. Like, do you know what I mean? And not
definitely.
Like, like a Crystal Weiss beer.
Yeah,
tastes wheaty. Yeah. Whereas this tastes like.
Yeah, I mean, considering how much wheat goes into it, it's very interesting. What the actual it's just the sourness dominates. Like, it's like there's potential. You can add the fruit. You can make it super hoppy. You can perhaps make it higher ABV if you want. But considering this is what the style calls for. Yeah, it's a good change of pace just to have like the bare bones stripped back version of it, and yeah, I mean I'm going to be making this so much now, like knowing how easy it is to make. Like, yeah,
a keep on the tap beer. I with you always kind of want you want to know what you keep on tap, and I would expect to come to your house and see a Berliner Weiss of some description on tap.
Yeah, definitely. It's becoming. Not that it was ever hard to begin with, it like just such an easy process now, and I'm starting to get more confident with different ways that I can explore now. So perhaps I might opt for like a different souring technique now, or an ode to the lambic, trying to use some of those like weird and wonderful bacteria and just let it sit for a while. But yeah, realizing you can make sour beer yourself is definitely one of those like light bulb shattering moments that you realize it's not too far off what you can kind of do yourself.
What does it compare to as well, by the way?
Gee, that's a really tough one. Because, you don't really get too many of these on the market that are just a plain sour beer. And to be honest, even the brief time I had spent in Germany, it wasn't too apparent at the start, because that's still,
really?
lager territory, really. Your classic German sort of beers. But, I mean, if you were to have a sour beer off the shelf, you're not too far off, I think.
Okay.
It's very hard to compare it, I find. I wouldn't say there's many people just doing the plain stuff right now, but the sourness is very telling of what a lot of people are doing. So it's similar territory. 3.1% alcohol, 10 IBU, which it definitely isn't. I should just say that every time now, shouldn't I?
I think we all kind of I think you kicked off that train, and now we're all under the. It's not that
it can't be. So yeah, very light in those parameters, very light in colour as well, probably even lighter than the lager we did before. This is probably more likely to bring in a wine drinker than it is a West End drinker though. Not to say it wouldn't, but I'd say it's more likely the wine drinker over the West End drinker.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, this isn't my everyday beer. I'm not going to come home and drink 6 hours every night. My dentist would kill me. It's down to one camera again.
Down to one again.
Ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is a fucking dog and pony show.
It's overheated.
Take it from there.
It's overheated.
It's about 26 degrees ambient temperature right now. What were we saying? Yeah, definitely in the crafty space. Definitely on that end of the spectrum. Yeah, I think that's becoming more and more popular, and it's probably not going to surprise as many people as sour beer did to me a couple of years ago when I started seeing
definitely
it.
not.
Yeah, becoming very much part of the course as we did before. Yeah, part of the Homebrew Challenge.